Okay, so welcome back to session 2 on how to work with resistant clients in regards to being a hypnotherapist, a coach, NLP practitioner, whatever you're doing, where you're experiencing resistance or clients not being in the best proper mood or state to move forward with your therapeutic approach. We're lucky enough to have Rebecca back on the line. So Rebecca, welcome back.
Thank you.
Excellent. Great to have you again. So as per usual, Beck, you've done a couple of these trainings before. I want to jump straight into the content, but just before we do that, I do want to ask, do you have any questions about possibly what we're going to go through today or what we covered last time?
No questions.
No questions yet. Excellent. So let me just quickly recap just to revivify the experience we had last time. All we did in the very first session was gain an understanding of what we mean or what the industry means about being resistant. It's how can we create a different attitude towards resistant clients so we don't get stuck being resistant against their resistance. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
What we looked at essentially was how do we pick apart the mindset? We learned very quickly that when a client is resistant, it's either going to be at a conscious level or it could possibly be at an unconscious level. And the only tools I gave you to play with and what we experienced during that session 1 was instead of going up against the resistance, is to pick it apart, tear it apart so it gets destroyed, and then progress through. And that's what this session's about today, is we know what happens when we get to the brick wall, when we get to the hurdle, so to speak. We know we need to stop what we're doing in regards to the therapeutic session, like a stop smoking session, weight loss or whatever. We learn very quickly that we put all that aside. Once we hit resistance, we then need to address the resistance. So what I want to do today is figure out what do we do, or what's another thing we can do that is quote unquote could be viewed as an induction or a way to deal with resistance, the very easiest way to actually start trance occurring. Now, if you recall a couple of things we talked about on the last session, the very fact that we're investigating the resistance, just like when we investigate a client's issue when they come in, tends to lead towards a client going into trance because they're having a deeper association or deeper thinking to what's occurring. So we're going to do the same thing here, but instead of just waiting for trance to occur, we're going to do something a little bit sneaky. And as soon as our client gives us something that we could see or hear as being resistant, we are going to imply that it was a good thing they're resistant and that actual trance is actually occurring while being resistant. Does that make sense on where we're headed for today?
Yes.
Okay, so let's look at how we do this, okay? We've got a couple of steps I want to go through that will give us the highlights of what we do, okay? Let's take the same scenario that we've started talking to our client and we notice they're being resistant. Now, the resistance I want to work with today is one of the most common questions we get, and I know you guys get as well via email, which is to say, I don't believe in hypnosis. Okay, I think hypnosis is rubbish, or hypnosis didn't work on me. That's a very common mindset that society has, so let's address this like so. So we know what a client is telling us, really, when they say to us they do not believe in hypnosis. We know they could be protecting themselves against something. We know they might just not have an understanding, and I think you pointed this out last time, which was perfect. So we might need to address a couple of those things. But it could be a many variety of things that has concluded them to say that all things regards to hypnosis are rubbish. Okay? So let's say we're working with our weight loss, stop smoking, anxiety, dog phobia, want to climb trees but can't type addiction, whatever the case may be. And we're going to get to a point, we're starting to chat to our clients, and then we suddenly hear them say, we notice they're getting resistant, and we say, I'm just curious, you don't seem to be enjoying yourself right now. And then they come out with the line that says, well, to be honest, I really want to break through this challenge, but I don't believe hypnosis works. Okay, so this is the scenario we're going to play with. Are you happy to just progress from this scenario?
Yes.
Excellent. Now, have you had this as a therapist before where a client has blatantly said, I don't believe in hypnosis before?
Well, normally I'd have that before, like when they're asking me about hypnosis before they book in.
Yes.
And we kind of explore it then, but not really in the chair.
Okay. Now, it's probably a good thing as they come out when you're first booking them in, because that would be the same block they'd continue to bring into the session. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So this will actually work. This method will work, and you can have a lot of fun with this, even if the first thing they say to you on the phone is, I don't really believe in hypnosis.
Mm-hmm.
Now, we might think, well, how can we teach them something about hypnosis, or what we're going to do is basically show them that hypnosis is real and what it's about. We have to think again, well, if you're calling me on the phone to book me in, and that's the first thing you say to me, you can already hear the conflict, right?
Yes.
Okay. If I'm not hungry, I don't book in to go to a restaurant. Okay. It'd be silly of me to call up a restaurant and say, hey, I want a table for 1 at 5 o'clock. And if it was a restaurant that said, what are you looking at wanting to eat so we can book you in the right section of the restaurant? And I say, well, actually, I'm not hungry. Defeats the purpose of the phone call in the first place. Okay. Yeah. So let's play with clients in front of us first, and then we'll address the issue over the phone as well. Okay. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to throw the ball in your court. If a client has said this to us, and we're not going to investigate it, we're going to look at something else today. So we could go down investigating and say, well, how did you get to that? How do you get to that understanding that hypnosis is rubbish? Well, this happened in the past and I didn't get hypnotized. And then you can go down that road into investigating all of that stuff. But we're going to do an easy induction to start to imply that hypnosis is already occurring. And instead of just telling them or investigating, we're going to start to show them how quickly trance can occur, even if, and this is the catch here, even if they believe in it or not. We know if a client is sitting in front of us and has grown up into an adult, they had to have experienced trance at some point. Otherwise, they wouldn't be able to function as a human being. Even daydreaming is a form of trance. We've all done that. Sleeping is a form of trance. Getting over your own issues or getting over a broken heart is a form of trance to go into it to resolve your issues so you don't feel bad anymore. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Okay. So what do you think we can do next? Any ideas? Let's throw the ball in your court. If we weren't going to investigate the mindset, let's take another approach. What do you think we could do to address the resistance but also cause trance to happen at the same time? Any ideas?
So maybe imply some doubt, create something out of nothing.
Excellent. I'm going to take the first word you said there was exactly what we're going to do. Imply.
Okay. Yeah.
We're going to use the very act of implying things that we know works very, very well as hypnotists to anything we want. Now, implying doubt is a very quick way to do it. Okay, and let's address this since it's come up. Client says, I think hypnosis is rubbish. Okay, we can imply some doubt automatically and say something like, really? Leave it silent and we let them think about it, and we put a lot of pressure while looking at them. Now, for those who haven't experienced the implication of doubt, which is an easy Ericksonian trick, what's the whole purpose behind this? What exactly does this do to our client?
Well, it makes them kind of go like double check themselves, like double think it's the whole thing.
Yes. So they start to rethink the statement they've given us.
Which then, because they're thinking, it starts to create some unconscious moment.
Excellent. And the great thing about this is if a client says to us, I don't believe in hypnosis, who is now in control of that conversation, me or them?
They are.
They are. And it's a very hard place to be to hypnotize someone when they're in control. Now, what we tend to do as hypnotists, and I run foul of this at a very young age as well, the client says, I don't believe in hypnosis, I will then begin to teach them and say, no, well, everyone's experienced hypnosis before. Have you ever driven down the road and noticed you get home without realizing that you stopped at stoplights or where you had to turn? You just do it automatically. And we start to tell them the normal metaphors that everyone else does. And that can work, but I'm more interested in going a level beyond that. Okay? So it's almost like when I start teaching my clients, I'm starting to justify my mindset without addressing theirs. Does that make sense?
Yeah. That makes perfect sense.
I'm trying to prove it to them.
Mm-hmm.
Okay?
Yeah.
For example, let's say you go out to a restaurant with a friend. Let's use a restaurant metaphor again. Okay? And your client swears black and blue that they do not like eating steak. And you say, but this is great. This place has won awards for the greatest steak in all of Australia. It's fantastic. You'll love it. It'll be absolute magic. You'll learn to love steak. And then your friend keeps saying, but I hate steak. I'm a vegetarian. No, but you have to try this. This stuff is great. You can't miss this. It's fantastic. What's occurring right here? I'm trying to justify what I like and telling you to do the same.
Yeah.
Now, what do you think your friend's going to turn around and say to you? No, I'm not going. Stop telling me. Stop trying to force me to eat. And then you start an argument.
No, your friend's a lot more polite than my friend.
Yeah. I'm trying to do without all the profanity my friends would give me. Okay. So in regards to hypnosis, if we start teaching them, and we might have some great facts, what are the chances our client's actually listening to us or even knows the first thing we're talking about or even cares?
Yeah, they're probably just dismissing everything you're saying, but they're
right.
either going to start to glaze over.
Exactly. And it's not glaze over like great, an unconscious moment. It's a glaze over like I'm really bored right now.
Yeah.
Okay. If you've ever been to a medical doctor before and you get your checkup and they say, look, we found something small. This is what it's about. This is happening in the body. Then this is occurring. Then this is occurring. You're sitting there going, what on earth are you talking about? And you start to glaze over, think of other things. I'll give you another live example. When I took my four-wheel drive in for a service, I had to get the air conditioning fixed. And I take it to the same people all the time. They're lovely. They do a great job. They're really great with customer service. So for me, that's all thumbs up. But every time he fixes something in my car, we might spend 10 or 15 minutes of him explaining what he did, how the air conditioning works, how the suspension works, how the automatic transmission works, all of this sort of stuff. And I'm sitting there going, okay, don't know what you're talking about, but it's good enough for now.
Yeah.
Okay. In regards to hypnosis, we're working with the opposite because our client wants something. They want to get changed. They want to have something fixed in their life. And now you're teaching them about something that they have no interest in.
Mm-hmm.
So we use the implication of doubt to get back on the forward foot, to get in control of the conversation. So if a client says, I don't believe in it, we're going to say something like, really? Or something simple as, interesting. Just a quick little one-liner. It could even be a non-verbal cue, like you might give them a face like, I don't believe you, with a little cheeky smile on your face. Any of these things will work because it gets you back in control of conversation. Now, as the implication of doubt hits and your client starts to rethink their previous statement, they will go into trance to try and justify why they said it in the first place. Do you see how we're winning that conversation right now?
Yeah.
And they say, well, it's not that I believe all hypnosis is rubbish. I went to a stage hypnosis show and it didn't work then. So now I have more information. Do you see how that implication of doubt is exactly the same, gets us to exactly the same place as investigating the resistance in the first place? Do you see how they all lead to the same place?
Yeah, this is a lot faster.
It's a lot faster. You have to be able to back it up, and it takes a little bit of cunning attitude behind it as well. You want to imply some doubt, and you want to stick to your guns.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? But don't do it aggressively. Have that smile on your face, that sense of care in your heart, and do it to basically tell them, I know you've been in trance before, so there's no way in the world you cannot believe it, but I'm not going to teach you when and how you did it. I'm just going to imply some sort of doubt so you do it for me.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so implication of doubt, I'm glad you brought that up. It's a great tool. It's quick, and it's very unexpected from your client as well. So what else could we do?
I had one just before what we were going to say.
It's okay, as per usual, go off my tangents.
Yeah. It's escaping me now. I
That's okay.
Think.
Let me give you what I have in mind.
Hypnotize me.
Yes. Let me give you what I have in mind, and let's see when we'll be able to circle back to what you're thinking as well.
Yeah.
What if we as conversational hypnotists and just the style of hypnosis that we use, we rely on not just the unconscious moment, but we also rely on using the unconscious moment. Would you agree?
Yes.
No point just seeing an unconscious moment and not using it. This is a utilization principle. So this is what I want to spend our time doing, is really getting to understand and getting to appreciate how powerful the old Ericksonian trick of utilizing everything can work for us in this way. So the way we're going to utilize it is very, very straightforward. Now, being that you are a professional hypnotherapist, had a lot of success in seeing a lot of clients as a full-time therapist as well, we cannot essentially do a demonstration where I'm doing this to you because you understand that there's no real mind blocks to get through. So we're going to have to role play this, but it wouldn't surprise me if as we role play this out, other things that you were unaware of that maybe you didn't believe about hypnosis may actually help affect you in the positive in your own practice. So you still get something from this, but we're going to play with this as a role play. Does that make sense?
Yep, sounds fun.
Excellent. All right. So to utilize it very, very simply, I want you to, again, as soon as you get resistance, is view the resistance as an unconscious moment, point blank.
Mm-hmm.
Because where does that resistance come from? It come from some sort of thinking, because the client had to think before they said it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. It wasn't just something that automatically came out of their mouth without thinking. If there's a small bit of thinking, let's just label it for circumstances for this training, but also just for the ease and naturalness of this, is as soon as we hear this, let's view it as an unconscious moment. Then all we need to do is utilize that unconscious moment. And the way we're going to utilize it is to reiterate back or echo back the very resistant thought that our client has given us. So let me give you an example. I'm your therapist and you're sitting in front of me and we're having a bit of a chat, and you say, you know what, Scott, I have to be honest, I really don't think hypnosis really works. So I'm going to echo it back point blank and say, okay, so you're telling me hypnosis really doesn't work.
Yeah.
Easy, right?
Yeah.
Now, if I do it in a way, I'm going to change it up a little bit and notice a difference. Client, you're my client, and you say, I don't think hypnosis really works. And I go, oh, okay. So, yeah, you don't believe hypnosis works. Okay. What's the difference in that?
The delivery was awful.
It was. It's awkward to do as well.
Yeah.
Do you hear there's no implication?
Yeah.
By me saying, okay, so what you're telling me is you're sitting here right in front of me. You might even say in a hypnosis session, and you really don't believe hypnosis works. Is that what you're telling me? It's almost like I'm saying, I'm telling you something without telling you it. I'm implying that what you have just said is irrelevant. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay. Now, how we do this is your delivery. The utilization tool, the utilization method, only works through delivery. You need to have, and we've stated this often enough through our different trainings, is the more you imply, the less you have to do. You could take a long language pattern that might have 30 words that has no implication or no meaning behind it, and it will have no effect. You could say one or two words, like the Ericksonian thing is, the words, that's right. But he said it with such implication that it meant more than the words he was saying. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So we've echoed it back. We put some implication. You're going to put that cheeky smile on your face to say, I know something you don't know type look. And then all we need to do is, once we've done that, is quickly reframe it. Okay. Yeah. So what I mean by this, let me give you the demonstration. So you've said, I think hypnosis, or I can't be hypnotized. Let's use that one. Okay. So you're sitting here in front of me and you really don't think hypnosis will work. So I guess that means you would have no idea that hypnosis has actually begun. Now, how could a client argue that?
It would be quite hard.
Yeah. What you're going to get as a response from your client is, what? No, I don't believe hypnosis works. That's right. You really don't. Just like you'd have no idea you'd go into trance before you believed it. And again, they're going to look at you and you're going to see the cogs starting to turn inside their head, and you'll probably get another, what do you mean? Hypnosis doesn't work, so how do I know? Or how can I go into trance if I don't believe it? That's right. How could you go into trance just by sitting there the whole time you believe it doesn't work? Do you see how I'm just utilizing everything they say in my favor?
Yeah, very clever.
Okay, which means this is a great thing for those listening at home. Arguments are now a thing of the past.
Mm-hmm.
Think about this for a couple. Okay, let's say you're having couples therapy, and one wife says to the husband, you never listened to me. And the husband says, you really think I never listened to you? You really think that? And he might have a lot of love in his heart, and he's implying that I really do, but I'm not going to tell you this because you're not going to believe me anyway. And it gets the wife thinking that maybe he does. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So we're doing the same thing here. So we're going to use reframe with every excuse, every bit of resistance that trance is already beginning.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So let me give you another full demonstration of this. Okay. Actually, we can do this. Let's play with this. As a therapist, you believe in a lot about hypnosis, which is fantastic. Is there any part of hypnosis that you really don't think either you're good at, or you really don't firmly believe that if you did believe it would actually help you in the long run? Do you have anything like that in your situation, just as an idea?
That I don't think I'm good at.
Yes.
Okay, let's use that. Probably. Um, what's that? What's word? Like doing like the sorry, I'm just trying
It's
to think of
okay.
the word. Not storytelling, but like getting them to close their eyes and doing hypnosis that way. I seem to do it like a more covert approach.
Mm-hmm.
So that's probably.
Yep. So if you had more either understanding or knew the know-how or even believed in yourself, you could do hypnosis other than just the way you're doing it, right?
Yes.
Okay. So what makes you think that you can't do it? Let's get the ball rolling here. What makes you think you can't do it?
Um, hmm. What makes what makes me think I can't do it? You can already feel like the unconscious
Yes.
moments, can't you?
Yes. So I'm letting them go. So let's play with this. What makes you think that the very fact you're doing hypnosis that's working, how do you get to a point of not knowing it's not working all the other times when you really don't believe it?
What?
Exactly. What? Well, think about it. If you're doing hypnosis so perfectly every other way other than just closing their eyes and you're using more of a covert approach, I guess that means that you're doing it in a better way than you think. And all it requires you to do is just tell your clients to close their eyes, right? Because who's to say you won't get the same results doing it with the eyes open, regardless whether you believe it or not, to have the same effect and power, regardless of what the eyes are doing, right? So open or closed, I guess you win either way, right?
Right.
Now, can you hear the conversation going on?
Yes.
Okay. Now, it's a little bit different because we don't have an issue per se. We've just got a little understanding. But do you hear, and you'll hear this later, you'll hear all the reframing that we're doing. Okay. How did it make you feel while we're going through that conversation? And it was very quick. It was 10 seconds worth.
If we had video with this, you could see I was definitely going into something.
Yes. So let me ask you this, although very quick. How do you feel about doing the whole eyes closed right now? Even if it's just a small change or whatever, what's happening with that right now?
Doesn't really feel like an issue.
Okay. What was it feeling like before?
Just kind of felt like it just wasn't my trick, you know.
Excellent.
But now I feel like, well, I can just do it either way.
Right? And that's the biggest reframe we were saying. Now, this is quick. For people listening at home, they say, oh, that's only 10 seconds worth.
It was.
This shows you how much implication we can put into the conversation. But also, if we did this in 10 seconds and had just a little nudge of success, and that's all it was, and we had a whole hour to do that, do you hear how many times we could reframe?
Mm-hmm.
Now, the only thing we missed out on reframing during that was me saying, you don't believe in hypnosis, but how do you know hypnosis isn't occurring already? We're basically using the reframe of today's session to say, I'm using your irrational thought to put you into trance. What we've done is more of a therapeutic reframe. You've told me you told me you're good at something, and then you told me there's a part of that something that you're not very good at. What we've done, for the sake of a metaphor, is they've been exclusive from each other. They've been pointing in different directions. What we've done as a reframe is pulled them together so they touch and become one.
Mm-hmm.
Do you see how that would work as the metaphor? And I know you're still going in and out of the trance. I can hear it in your voice. That's fine. That's essentially what we've done. It's the same with any conflict. I want to quit smoking, but God, I enjoy it. You can hear the conflict. What we do with conflicts is if they're pointing in the wrong direction, we have to include them in the same reality. They need to touch in the same circumstance, and then we move forward from that point. So that's essentially what we've done. Mm-hmm. Okay. So to give you a go of this, let's see how good your reframe skills are. I'm now going to be your client. I'm going to present you with something like, I think hypnosis, I can't be hypnotized, or I think hypnosis is rubbish. And I just want you to repeat back the exact words I've said with a lot of implication, and then imply, although I'm thinking that, trance is already occurring. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Let's just see how creative we can be. So I'm your client. I've said, you know what, Rebecca, I really want to quit smoking, but I just don't think hypnosis will work on me.
You just don't think hypnosis can work on you? Is that what you said?
Yeah, I just don't think it's going to work.
Oh, right. So you really just don't think that hypnosis will work on you?
No.
Well, that's interesting because, sorry, I lost it.
That's all right. Keep going. Just have a go at this. You're on the right track.
I forgot what you said.
So you just have to reframe it that although I think that trance is either already occurring, maybe already occurring, or I've already been hypnotized and don't realize it, just any of those things.
Okay, yeah. So although you may not believe in it, you can still, sorry.
It's all right. No, this is not an easy thing to do. Once you understand the pattern unconsciously.
My mind is still whirling out.
I know, and probably from before, what's occurring right now, that integration process, the touching, but also the metaphor I gave about the two different directions touching, that's probably been taken as a cue to start doing that, which is probably wasn't the best choice for us to do a little induction on you, but that's fine. Okay. So make it really, really simple on yourself. This is the XYZ formula. Although you don't X, which is although you don't believe in hypnosis, hypnosis is already occurring. Okay, just say that out loud, just so your unconscious mind gets the pattern. Just give.
Although you don't X,
yep.
Hypnosis is already occurring.
Okay, so that's the backbone of it.
Okay.
What's important is to understand, can you hear the implication that I'm presenting to you? Is it logical? Hell no. And if it's not logical, it means the conscious mind gets so confused trying to make it logical. We know what happens when the conscious mind gets confused, right?
Yes.
Okay, it gets detracted. It gets it's of less use. So while it's busy trying to figure out what the hell is Beck talking about, what does this have to do with that? While it's so busy contemplating other things, the unconscious mind goes, aha, I understand that confusion. Mm-hmm. To make this easier on us, we just need to remember this. The conscious mind does not understand confusion. The unconscious mind only understands confusion. That's why confusion techniques work so well. That's why when you get really deep into your own sessions, if you really listen to the stories you're telling or the stuff you're talking about coming out of your mouth, rationally, you'll step back and go, what the hell am I talking about? I'm even confusing myself. But your client is lapping it up. They're loving it. Mm-hmm. Okay? Does that make sense of just the formula itself? Mm-hmm. Okay? Yeah. So let's add some more things to this to be creative. Okay, let me give you my version. We'll just go back and forward. Okay, so you don't believe in hypnosis, although you're sitting in my office. You can give them a little, little stab of the gut, so to speak, with that one. Just a little quick bit of humor there. You really believe hypnosis doesn't work, although you're sitting in front of me. So I guess that means you'd have no idea that hypnosis can start quickly. What have we just implied then?
That the hypnosis is already occurring.
Yeah, and it can start quickly.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now, you can't argue that. What has one got to do with another? They don't. Now, logically, if your client says, no, that can't be the truth, we just hit him with another reframe. So what could be another reframe on your side? We'll use the same start, which is say you don't believe in hypnosis, then just get creative with the reframe.
Okay. So although you don't believe in hypnosis, hypnosis is already occurring on an unconscious level.
Excellent. Beautiful. Do you hear that's a very true fact as well? Mm-hmm. So what a nice way to teach someone something. Mm-hmm. So although you don't believe in hypnosis, I guess you also don't believe that trance can occur at an unconscious level, all the while you're so busy not believing it.
I really like that one.
Okay, so let me give you another one. Okay, let's change up the starting point so that hypnosis is rubbish. Okay, so you really believe the hypnosis is rubbish. Is that what you're telling me? Well, yeah. So I guess if you think hypnosis is rubbish, the trance that's occurring right now is rubbish also. Is that what you're telling me? Now, if a client says yes to that, but they have agreed that it's rubbish, what also have they agreed to? The trance is already occurring.
Mm-hmm.
If they say no, it means that the trance that they're occurring right now, they don't believe it's rubbish, which means it must be good. You can hear the injustice in these sentences that make no logical sense. And just trying to explain them logically to you as a student gets very difficult as well, because my mind is going 100 miles an hour trying to figure it all out as well.
So's mine, trying to keep up with you.
I can tell. And look, like everything we do, right, this reframing in the way that we're doing it comes naturally once you start to practice it. But remember, it's all in your thinking. As soon as you start to believe that resistance is real, this reframing gets very hard. However, if you really take on board the mindset to say that if my client is resistant, yes, I can now use a reframe real quickly, you're in a really good place. Okay, so let me give you another one. Let me give you the starting point. I'm your client and I say, okay, Rebecca, I've been hypnotized before, but I don't think this time will work. So it's a little bit more challenging, this one. What have you got for me?
Okay. So you don't think that hypnosis will work this time, although hypnosis has worked before. So I wonder if you believed in it last time and it happened anyway, just like it can happen this time.
Beautiful.
No idea what I just said.
And that's why that was fantastic. That was a massive reframe. And it had so many implications. And it was what you were saying was exactly making logical sense, because I'm just repeating exactly what you've told me, or vice versa. You told me that, okay, you don't believe in it this time. Does that mean you believed in it last time and it worked? Or did it just work regardless of you believing it or not? You've thrown me in the mix with my own experience. Now, this is important. Why is it so important that we start these reframes with the very reality or thinking that comes from our client? Why is this so important? Why don't we just come up with our own belief in hypnosis? Why do we have to use theirs at the very start of these reframes?
Because you're attaching a new idea to their idea. So their idea, that's come from their conscious or unconscious reality.
Yes.
You're just helping to attach a new, like spinning it out, really.
Yes. Beautiful. That's exactly what it's doing. Yeah. If I need to use their reality, it means that they can accept it. Okay, so it gives me a starting place. And like you said before, which was great, we're attaching a new thought to it. We're expanding their reality just slightly. We're not doing this. They say, I don't believe in hypnosis. Well, I do. So I guess it means because I do, it must be working on you too. Doesn't have the same effect, does it?
No.
Okay, but if a client says, I've never believed in hypnosis, interesting. So you've never believed in it. So I wonder how quickly you'll start to believe it while you're feeling what's occurring right now.
Yeah.
Now, if we really break down what we're saying here, it has nothing to do with each other. We're almost giving our client a white lie to say to them that trance is already occurring. Now, if we do this with repetition, we don't just do this once and hope for the best. Sometimes it can be as quick as that. But if we do this through repetition and keep implying that trance is already occurring, you should already be feeling it. I wonder when you will feel it. I wonder if it's now. I wonder if it'll happen in a second. I wonder if trance has been happening all along. If we imply this half a dozen times over the space of a couple of minutes, what do you think is going to start to occur?
Their mind's just going to start spinning out, and they're going to either go further to the edge of their map, or step completely out of it.
Exactly. For them to be able to follow along, as long as they listen, they're taking on the suggestion. Okay? The more repetition we do it, it's cementing in, so they will start to feel it. Yeah. So how do we know that a client's starting to feel it? There's two ways we can play with this. How do we know that a client's starting to feel the very implication of these reframes?
The unconscious moment.
Every single time. Okay, they never change. That that lighthouse in the darkness, so to speak, always exists whether the light's on or off. It is always the same thing. Regardless of what style you use, we have to keep an eye on these unconscious moments. What's another way we could find out if our client's actually feeling it?
Just ask them.
Get some feedback, right? So let's say we got some feedback. Let's put us in the situation again. You're my client. You said hypnosis isn't real. And I said, oh, interesting. So you're telling me this whole time you've believing hypnosis isn't real, you've been so busy to not notice that it's already begun. And you go, huh? And I'm going to keep reframing it. Might do it 4, 5, maybe 6 times. I'm spotting the unconscious moments. I'm monitoring it. Have I got big ones? Are they small? Are they quick? Are they lasting a long time? Whatever the case may be. Then I might say, well, what's happening right now? And then you might come back with, well, it's not that I don't believe it won't work. I just don't think it'll happen to me. So what's occurred right here? And although this is a role play, what's occurred right here?
They've shifted what they actually think.
Yes, they've given us the real information of probably the first thought they had at the very start.
Mm-hmm.
But do they believe it completely yet? No. And that's what's important. We need to keep reframing this resistance out until they 100% believe in it.
Mm-hmm.
So if I'm your client and I've said to you, well, it's not that I don't believe in hypnosis as a whole, I just don't think I can be hypnotized, how would you continue to reframe that?
Mm-hmm. So could you say that again?
Yep, absolutely. So it's not that I don't believe all hypnosis works, I just don't think I can be hypnotized.
Okay. So you don't think that you can be hypnotized, yet you have a belief in there that some hypnosis can work, right? So how can you know that this hypnosis that you're about to experience isn't going to be what works for you?
Now you're getting it. That was a huge extended one.
Yeah.
There was a lot of implication in that, which was brilliant. Now, let me ask you this. You probably have no idea what you said.
No, I don't.
And that's why it's starting to work. Do you see how quickly, if you notice at the very start of this, although you're in a little bit of a trance, which is understandable, you weren't really getting it. And we just had to cut down the basics, go down the basics and say something like, well, if you think hypnosis is rubbish, you probably won't know that hypnosis is occurring. That's the broad brushstroke we played with. Just by learning the very basic and mechanical version is enough the unconscious mind gets the pattern of what we're trying to teach here, and now you can extend it. Do you see how quickly that can happen?
Yeah.
Okay.
My unconscious mind was just bringing me the words, like I didn't think of what to say. It was just kind of coming.
That's right.
And
that's why it'll have the effect. Excellent. And that's your own integration process happening. And that people listening at home, what I want to point out is don't quickly try and rush to the end point to give a great example of what Beck just did. Follow where Beck started at the start. She started off struggling a little bit, but now, after a couple of minutes, maybe 20 minutes of playing with this, we're now getting to a point where the rapid reframes are happening quickly. So just take that as a side note. Okay? Mm-hmm. So what you've done right now is to basically say, I know you've just shifted your thinking. I wonder how much more we need to shift it before you 100% believe it. So I'm going to give you my example of this. So a client says, it's not that I don't believe all hypnosis doesn't work. I just don't think I can be hypnotized. Okay, so you really believe that? Bit of implication of doubt. And they said, yeah. But before, you were so convinced that none of it would work. I wonder at what level or what you had to do to believe it just enough to start it to experience it even before you believe it 100%. I mean, what a weird place to be that your mind can shift thinking so quickly. So I guess that whole time it was shifting quickly, and I understand it's not all the way there yet, I wonder what else is occurring that would help you believe it so much so you could get a therapeutic result that you're looking for. So what did we just add at the end right there?
You added in some suggestions.
Thank you.
At the end there.
We are now doing the therapy component.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the therapy component was just open-ended and simple. We used the rapid reframe to follow the steps. We reiterated the new mindset. Now, it doesn't matter if the mindset of thinking or believing changes 100 times. You just keep following it and reframing it. Mm-hmm. Then we reframed that trance was beginning, which is the induction. Mm-hmm. And then we said, as a result of the induction, it must mean that you're learning something therapeutic from this. Mm. Now, logically, are they? Who knows?
Yeah.
But it's enough the unconscious mind goes, I can do both of those. I can put them into trance, and thank you for giving me the permission. Now I can start the therapy.
Yeah.
Let me give you some more context for this before you have a go at this. Let's say we have a stop smoking client, and they've come and sat down, we do a little investigation, and they say, look, Rebecca, I don't think hypnosis actually would work on me. Okay, so you're here sitting in front of me, but you're really not sure hypnosis will work. Is that what you're telling me? Well, yeah. So I guess the whole time you're not believing it, something must be occurring in order to believe it enough to actually ask me that as a question. And they're going to say, what? Normal reframe. Then I'm going to say, in my in the induction part, I'm going to keep repeating that so they start to feel a bit of a trance. I'm saying, because you're thinking this, trance must be occurring, or because you think you believe in that, trance must be beginning. You don't even know about it, the normal induction. And then I only get a bit of feedback and say, how do you feel right now? Well, I think hypnosis will work, but I'm not sure it'll work with me to quit smoking. Okay, so you're sure at some level that you can actually go into trance, but really haven't convinced yourself enough that a trance that you can go into is powerful enough to help you quit smoking, all the while you're believing something totally different. Is that what you're telling me? Do you hear the suggestion in there?
Yes.
Okay, you might have to listen back to that. I basically said, I've jumbled everything around and I've sneakily put a little embedded suggestion in there, like stop smoking can be easy.
Mm-hmm.
But if I left it as, you can go into trance and stop smoking can be easy, my client will argue it. So I've hidden it inside another reframe at the end. I've just continued to talk, basically.
Yeah.
So to follow the timeline of that, I've talked, suggestion in the middle, continued to talk. Do you see how and I've heard your stories and they're magnificent, do you see how one of your great stories could fit right on the end of that?
Yeah.
And you could go into a long tangent about a stop smoking story, and all of those suggestions are so hidden in these weird reframes, these weird new beliefs, these new thinking, this trance is occurring. It all gets jumbled up into this confusing state. And all those suggestions get absorbed because a client can't follow along.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I'd like for you to give that a go. Let's use the smoking. Let's say I've already given you the first thing to reframe. You've reframed it a couple of times. You've asked for my feedback.
Mm-hmm.
Then I'm going to say something like, I just don't think, and I've heard this a lot of therapists saying this, I don't think hypnosis is enough to help me quit smoking.
Okay. So you still don't think hypnosis is enough to quit smoking? Is that what you're telling me?
Yes.
Okay. Well, what am I going to say? Well, as much as you might believe that hypnosis isn't enough, yet while you're sitting here, you're sorry.
It's all right. You're on the right track.
You're opening up to, you're opening up more and more to allowing that hypnosis to work in the way that it needs to work for you. And while you're sitting here and listening to me talk, oh, damn, I've lost it.
No, you're on the right track, and what you said was absolutely brilliant.
I was going to put in a suggestion, and now
your suggestion was actually already there, which was great.
Oh.
Okay, you said something along the lines of, and I guess the whole time this is occurring, I have to paraphrase here, the whole time this is occurring, the unconscious mind is doing what it needs to help you out.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, let me give you just so you can hear it now, you've given it a go. Okay, so you really still don't believe that hypnosis is enough to quit smoking. So I wonder when one person gets to enough knowing that doing this is exactly what they needed, or knowing that just doing enough of something else is the very best way to not just go into trance, but find the one thing they need to do in order to get the change they're looking for. I mean, it would be silly of me to suggest, or even to agree, with someone that's never experienced hypnosis, to really believe what they're saying, to think it's not enough to quit smoking, have some fun, and learn something valuable, all the while believing probably what everyone else has said. So I guess it's more about believing in yourself and really wondering how easy someone goes into trance while other things are occurring. Do you see how you could just rabbit on over and over?
My gosh. That's incredible.
Now, this does take time. Okay, again, I don't expect you to get
I'm
to this.
spinning out.
I can tell, but it's important. We can get the little therapeutic suggestions in there.
Yeah.
Now, logically, I'm saying total rubbish. That's what's in. It doesn't have to make sense. If I'm trying to make sense of it, it'll sound like this. So, I guess once you go into hypnosis, you can learn how to stop smoking, overcome your life hurdle, so you can live the life you want to be. But you really need to go into hypnosis first before that can occur. That's what I've said.
Mm-hmm.
But if I say it like that, it's too easy to argue, isn't it?
Yeah.
But if just as my client's cottoning onto what I'm doing, I'm throwing them another loop of confusion. I'm almost reframing my reframes. That's where it gets really tricky.
Mm-hmm.
Now, to give you the end result, this is how you know you're doing this with a lot of elegance, is you're going to start to go down this monologue. You're going to be reframing. Stuff is going to start coming out of your mouth, and you won't be able to keep up. And when that happens, let it go. Let the unconscious mind plus your own law of association do all the work for you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, you've experienced this before. You've mentioned to this on many occasions. You had your client leave your office with better results than even you thought they could get, but you said to me, I have no idea what I did. I said something, and they changed. Don't know how it works. And there's been other cases where you've said, I know it worked, but I want to try and figure it out.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if we spend our time trying to figure it out, you'd lose yourself in it. It would lose all its power. Do you see what I mean about really trusting our own unconscious mind here?
Mm-hmm. And just allowing it to take over, really.
That's right. I mean, because how could someone not trust themselves enough when they're not being themselves, right, to actually get what they want from a session, regardless whether the eyes are open or closed, right?
Mm-hmm.
Just to use your reframe from before.
You're killing me here.
Okay. Now, these reframes can happen very, very quickly, but it's something, the best way to practice this is to present yourself a bit of resistance and talk yourself through it. This is what I'd say at this point. Now, if you use your own storytelling ability, you can see how some elements of how to tell a great hypnotic story come into this, and your rapid reframes now become a speech. They're not just a quick one-lining reframe. They're a long monologue full of reframes, suggestions, advice even, metaphors, short stories. And now you can talk to somebody the way that Erickson did for a whole hour, telling story after story, metaphor after metaphor, reframe after reframe, that of course his clients go into trance because they have no idea what he's doing or no idea, where he's going with everything. And people look in your session and go, how did you just come up with all of that? That's the reframing coming out of you. It's you're reframing your reframes. You're telling a story, then reframing the story to mean other things. We do this with metaphors, don't we?
Mm-hmm.
A metaphor is just a reframing story to a life event. Okay. Any questions with that so far?
No. How long till I'll be able to get as good as you?
Good question. Okay. Now, I can answer this in a reframe, or I can answer you this logically. What would you like to hear?
Reframe.
Okay. So your question, just to clarify, is to find out how long this would take you, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I guess you've already forgotten how long you did it just before without even knowing, but you still have a question of how and when. I mean, how does someone ask a question like that when the demonstration they gave before they even considered this question was far beyond all the thoughts they could and what they could do? I mean, who knows if that's the best way to actually go into trance and think about this properly? Or is it the one thing you're looking for that actually could be blocking the exact way you did it before? So I guess it's all a question, and maybe it's not a question of how long it'll take for you to get good at it. It's how easily will you recognize yourself doing it with such class and elegance that you'll forget yourself long enough to actually just do it and enjoy it. I mean, I could be wrong, but who knows? Right?
Oh, goodness. Yeah, I'm just going to go and lie down for the rest of the day and let that sink in.
Okay, so that's my answer to that question.
That's a great answer.
Very glad. Okay, that's your unconscious answer. Let me give you a logical conscious answer. We may as well appease both parts of you. The answer consciously is who knows. your reframes will only be as good as the more you practice them. So I guess anything less than practicing them will give you less results, right?
Yeah.
Okay, and there we go again. Is to basically say, like everything, think about it when you were a storyteller when you first started out. You were all over the place. But now you're telling stories where I sit back and go, I'm going to use that. I'm stealing that story. That was awesome. Okay? You're doing things in a covert approach, like you said, that when you first started hypnosis, you were so busy trying to do it the way that you wanted to do it, then this covert stuff came out of you, and now you're hardly saying anything, and your clients are falling into a deep therapeutic trance of what you're telling me and for what other colleagues are telling me they're seeing you do. But you're doing it without knowing how you're doing it. This is your own hypnotic personality coming out. So probably what will happen with the reframes is they'll start to come out of your mouth the exact time you need them. Now, what did we just do right there?
Some reframing and suggestions.
Exactly. What we started to do was use some logic, which is conscious, and some unconscious logic. So the great thing about this, and this is not a lesson per se, this is just to show you where it can actually end up, is you're using some logic, then you're using some unconscious logic. So your whole speech sounds like this. It makes a little bit of sense, but then you get totally confused. And then it sort of makes sense again, totally confused. A little bit of sense, confusion.
Yeah.
Now, it would be...
kind of like fractionation.
There we go. Would that describe your whole learning of hypnosis as well?
Basically to a T, yes.
If all we taught our students, and for yourself being more in a private setting, if all I taught you was hypnosis at a logical level, you'd never know how to do it.
Yes.
If all I taught you was how to do it more at an unconscious level, you'd never know when you did it.
Yes.
Or you'd never know how to do it because you wouldn't even remember the lessons. So we have to include both. So this whole style of this communication that I tend to have with you guys, or even the students, or is just all a mixture of reframing logic and unconscious logic, and we just put it all together. And then your reframes that come out when you're working with clients seem simple. Okay, but it takes practice, like everything else. So let me just recap just quickly, because we're coming to the end of this training program. Working with resistance is something we're all going to come across, correct? You've come across it, I'm going to come across it, we all will. We come across resistance even in our social groups, do we not?
Yes.
Okay, I want to do this, or I want to go to this movie, well, I don't, I like this movie, and you have those arguments. Okay, so what we've gained an understanding is that we can look at resistance in two different ways. We can either find out how our client gets the point of expressing that resistance, or resistance, attitude, hatred, bad mood, whatever you want to call it. We can go through the resistance and dig deep, or we can take the resistance as face value and reframe it to suit our needs or our client's needs, which is more therapeutic or trance. Okay, they're the three existing principles that we've played with. Okay, and just like everything else, it does take time to build up to a stage where you can do this off the top of your hat. Now, this does not occur, and this is people listening at home as well, by writing down exactly what we've said, by writing down what Rebecca said in her reframes, or writing down what I said in my reframes. It does not work like that. The understanding, the lessons between the lessons of these training programs is where you're going to get all those golden nuggets. Regardless whether it's reframing, it's learning how to story tell through us, it's working with hypnotic phenomena, it's working in a more of a coaching situation. It's the lessons and the conversations between that I really want people at home to pay attention to, but also yourself, because it is easier to use reframes when you haven't prepared them. If you prepare your reframes, they won't have the power that a reframe should. Does that make sense? Okay, and that wasn't a long story reframe at all.
Not at all.
Not at all. Okay, so thank you for joining us on this program, Becca. I do apologize for going a little bit crazy during this session, but it was important to show you how quickly those reframes can occur. What I suggest you do if you were my client is go spend the next half an hour to let all that settle in, because you'll probably get something really valuable from it, especially from the questions you were asking, because there was some therapeutic value in that as well. Okay, so before I go, again, you will get this training program, but yours to listen to. Do you have any questions for me before I let you go completely?
No, I think you definitely covered everything. Thank you so much for having me on. I've learned a lot.
You're very welcome. Hope to see you on the next one. But like always, you now have an important tool when you come up a resistance. Now you're probably going to be wanting your clients to bring in resistance because now you can use this great new training system to put it into play and see how well it works for you.
Oh, please, yes.
Okay. All right. We'll hopefully speak to you very, very soon. Thanks for joining us, and good luck with everything.
Thank you.
All right. Bye for now.
Bye.